Hello and welcome to the Squirtle High School Football Playoff Preview Show. Over the next hour or so, we're going to visit with some of the top coaches in the state of Oklahoma and let you know what's going on in the playoffs. As they're already here, high school football season always flies by. 10 games, 11-game regular season week is over very quickly. Lauren Montgomery is going to be our first guest tonight, head coach of the Bixby Trojans. Also, Jake Corbin, Choctaw Yellow Jackets, Robert Jones, Del City, Jeff Craig at Blanchard, Brett Bogert from Heritage Hall, Brad Beller from Washington, Robert Bernard from Fairview, Josh Bean at Dewar, and then Travis White at Tipton will be the coaches that you can see on the show tonight. You can also ask us questions here by just chatting here in the chat. If you have something that you would like to ask, then just do that over social media, and we'll get to it during the show. So look forward to interacting with you here as we talk some high school football on this Tuesday night. Let's throw up the 6A Division I bracket. Corey here, and we'll take a look at that before we bring Lauren on the show. Of course, they've got the week off. Bixby, Union, Owasso, and Jinx, the four Tulsa schools, do not have to play this weekend. The change was made last year for 6 teams in each district to make the playoffs. And so with that, we've got some pretty good first-round matchups. You look at Mustang and Westmore, 2 teams at the beginning of the season were vying to potentially be the top team in the west side of the state. Mustang is going with a freshman quarterback right now after an injury at that position and playing some pretty good football. Westmore was able to beat Jinx earlier this season. And so the Jaguars are having one of their better seasons in quite some time. So that'll be a really, really good game with the winner of that taking on Union. Westmore faced Union at the beginning of the season, lost that game 49-7. Edmond Santa Fe also is in the mix, I think, to be one of the best teams on this side of the state. They have Enid at home. And Edmond Santa Fe, also a team that beat Jinx earlier in the season with a chance to knock them off again. So Demarius Robinson, the Edmond Santa Fe running back, is one of the top players on this side of the state, just a junior, but he's run for a ton of yards this year. So I look for Edmond Santa Fe to advance in that game against Enid and get a chance to potentially knock off Jinx for the second time in a season, which is it's very, very difficult to do. If you go back and you look at a lot of those great Jinx Union rivalries of the past, the team that won in the regular season usually didn't fare as well in the playoffs. So Kyle White's Edmond Santa Fe team will definitely earn it if they are able to advance to the semifinals this year. On the other side of the bracket, Norman North, Edmond North, quality game. Norman North, another team that can lay claim to potentially being the best team in the west side of the state. They knocked off Westmore a couple of weeks ago in a key battle there. And so we'll see if the Timberwolves can have a chance to get to that game against Owasso. They've had some shootouts in the past. And Norman High scored a lot of points. They have been a team this year that can really play some offense. Broken Arrow has had one of the tougher seasons that they've had in quite some time against a very, very tough schedule this year. And so the Tigers against the Tigers will be a pretty good game. Broken Arrow has to go on the road to face Norman in that one. This bracket is tough, and not because we're having him on and talking to him next, but I like the Trojans in this, or I like the Bixby Spartans in this game. They've just been so good this season. They did not face Union last year in a battle that I think a lot of people were anticipating would happen, but I think that Bixby in Union would be a great final, but I do like the Spartans in there. I think I called them the Bixby Trojans earlier. I should be shot. That is horrible. So let's throw up the Class 6A Division II bracket, and we will look at this one. This one I think is going to be a really, really competitive bracket. You look at the 4 teams with byes here have been so good. The last few seasons, Choctaw, Stillwater, Deer Creek, and Muskogee. Stillwater defeated Muskogee last week to win the district championship. You got to go back about 3 weeks for a narrow defeat. Deer Creek beat Choctaw. So I think in those 2 games, maybe a total of like 16 or 17 points decided those games. So I think that we will have a pretty good chance of seeing those guys square off again in the semifinals in some form or fashion. Stillwater and Choctaw is a game that we've seen a lot over the last couple of years. I do want to give a couple of special mentions here. Bartlesville, the Bruins are playing very good football right now. They've played some of the top teams in their district very competitively down the stretch. Those games didn't go their way, but I think Bartlesville is a team to watch out for. against Putnam City North in the first round. We'll see how they fare against Deer Creek, but they played really good games against Stillwater and Muskogee here just a few weeks back. Putnam City West, Greg Johnson, former head coach at Langston, has taken this Putnam City West team and put them in the playoffs. They had a big win over Booker T. Washington in the final week of the season, so I'll give a lot of credit to Greg Johnson, Putnam City West, for making the playoffs. They go to Ponca City, and it's the second year in a row the Wildcats have hosted a playoff game. So congratulations to Ponca City. That game will be at Sullen Stadium this weekend, and the winner will travel to Muskogee. A little bit of a down year for Lawton. They go to Sand Springs, but the Wolverines are in the playoffs against the Sandites. Sand Springs played a tough game, representative game against Stillwater earlier this year. That was a Squirtle game of the week. And so that contest is perhaps hanging out there on the horizon if Sand Springs could be able to get by Jake Corbin's squad in Choctaw. And Putnam City Pirates are hosting a game. They will take on Tahlequah, but all three Putnam City schools are able to get into the playoffs this year in the Class 6A Division II bracket. Let's throw up Class 5A while we are waiting on Coach Montgomery to join here. Very impressed with the teams in this bracket so far this year, and you've got some good ones. You got the Elgin Owls that are undefeated at perfect 10-0. You've got Carl Albert undefeated at 10-0. You've got Del City undefeated at 10-0, and then you have a Guthrie team with one loss this year, and that came in the final minute of the game at home to Carl Albert. So I think this one is going to go down to the wire, and it could be any of these teams. I know that Coach Jones at Del City had a lot of good things to say about Guthrie this year. The Eagles were in the 6A Division III that went to Tulsa, or 5A District 3 that went to Tulsa and played a lot of those games over there. They came out looking really good. Had a tough non-district schedule at the beginning of the year, challenging themselves to the likes of Choctaw, where they went on the road, and Booker T. Washington. I think the Eagles are certainly a team that could win this class. Carl Albert, another team that has got so much tradition and potentially one of the best as far as talent goes to translate to the next level. Carl Albert is about as talented as we've seen a team there. Let's welcome in our first guest tonight, Lauren Montgomery of the Bixby Spartan. Unbelievable run, 8-time state champion there at Bixby, 71-2 in the last 73 games, 5 titles in the last 6 years. Lauren, how you doing?
Doing excellent. I appreciate you guys having us on.
It's great to talk to you. Tell me a little bit about, last week was Bedlam, but it was also Jinx Union, and that rivalry, you've been on both sides of it. It seems like it's incredibly intense. How do you keep your team calm going into that game?
Well, it is big. Bixby and Jinx is such a big game. Our community, our kids are familiar with one another. We live across the river from one another, and we've had some really good battles over the last 8 or 10 years or so against those guys. So there's a lot of fanfare that goes with that. We had an excellent crowd. I think the newspaper said over 10,000 people at that football game, which is really cool for our players to get to play in that environment. And so, just the thing that we always talk about, you're going to be nervous, and being nervous is okay. It means that something important is about to happen. But after we get out there and go through that first snap, it's just football as we know it.
You guys trailed at halftime in this game, and I know that they ended your streak last year. So what was that locker room like? Because you're not used to being in games at halftime.
Well, so yeah, they came out fast and they jumped up on us, and we had a little bit of trouble getting some things going. Had some touchdowns called back, some big plays, had some careless penalties on our part. And so we knew that we needed to, number one, eliminate those things. And that's one of the things that we talked about at halftime. And then we needed to adjust to some of their big plays they had hit us with. And fortunately, we went in only down 14-7. I think it probably could have been worse. We made a couple plays to keep that from happening. But our guys were calm. Our guys knew that we had opportunities that we hadn't taken advantage of, and you didn't see a whole lot of that far away look. And so I was proud of our guys for, overcoming just a little bit of adversity.
Blake Hogshooter had 3 second-half touchdown receptions. Is that right? Did you take him to Savastano's after the game?
Man, I tell you what, he deserves some deep dish, Eiffel Tower, or whatever it is, best pizza in town as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, he did. He came up big. Blake's a junior wide receiver. He's a big target that we have, 6'3", long, can high point the ball, and has been playing really well, doing some good things, making some possession catches and blocking well out on the perimeter, but just hasn't really broken loose and had that big game yet. And he had that Friday night.
You guys had 11 different receivers and 9 different running backs score this year. And if there's not one player that stands out statistically over a ton of the others, how does that help kind of keep everybody invested in the whole mission?
Well, I think it's a compliment to our offensive staff and Coach Tyler Schneider, our offensive coordinator. Those guys work really hard to get the ball in space to our playmakers. And we're fortunate to have a lot of guys that we feel like can make some plays. And it keeps those guys interested. If they know that they're going to catch a jet sweep, or we motion them into the backfield and hand off a counter play to them, or they're going to make some receptions on whatever the play might be, it keeps everybody engaged. And we've played a lot of guys. We've got some really good young guys coming up that we've tried to work into the rotation just a little bit. And I'm proud of the way some of those young guys have stepped up. And I'm proud of our offensive staff for putting together good creative game plans to get lots of different guys the football.
Is that a challenge for you when you are way ahead in games, as you usually are? I know that you want to, you don't want to beat anybody so bad that it looks like there's some unsportsmanlike stuff going on there, which there's not. But it does allow for a lot of players to gain experience.
Yeah, and sometimes it is, and we're fortunate to be in that position. But yeah, when we have the opportunity to put some younger players in and some of our reserves, we certainly want to go out and we want to run our offense and defense, and we want to do that effectively. And so sometimes you might be just a little bit handcuffed if you can't throw your run game screens, or you can't throw the ball down the field on 3rd down and 10 because of just the situation in the game. But our young guys are fortunate at Bixby. A lot of them have had the opportunity to not only play a lot of JV snaps. We play 2 JV games every Monday night. And so we might only take 25 or 30 guys to one spot and 25 or 30 to the other. So those guys are playing a lot of football, but they also have gotten in the second halves in games quite a bit.
I got to ask you about strength and conditioning and the 225 Club, which we've talked about before when you and I have visited. But I think that's a differentiator in core strength, because at the beginning of the season, if you look at teams and how many returning starters are coming back, there were other squads that had more than you guys. But I think with the program built the way that it is, with everyone going through that strength and conditioning program, you guys are able to just plug people in and keep going.
Yeah, in 2010, I think we had 8 guys our first year here that could clean 225 pounds. And last year, and we include our baseball players, we include everybody on campus, but we had over 90. And we just believe that stronger football players are better football players. You've got to have your Blake Hog shooters. You've got to have your Cordell Goldsby's and those playmakers like we talk about. But man, what about that 5'10" guard that is starting for his first time ever? Has he maximized his potential? Is he as strong as he can? And 225 has been a tool for us. It's a source of pride for those guys. They're young. They work really hard to get in there. Have the sticker on their car, have the T-shirt, and then we host the Night of Champions each summer with our cheerleaders, DJ, youth football, everything like that. And those guys get to go put their technique and their strength on display to kind of highlight and top off our summer each year.
Yeah, that program is incredible. Managing success, it looks like you've done pretty well, because you guys continue to be really, really good. Do you have to work with your guys to say, hey, look, we've got to focus on this goal every week?
Of course, yeah. Winning isn't easy, and each week is a different opponent. We know that we're going to get our best, and we've been fortunate the last few years to have some really, really good leaders on our team that understand the importance of practicing well and practicing with intent and making sure everyone around them does. And so that's kind of been a constant for our group this year is Hank Puckett and Brody Duffel, Cordell Goldsby. Those guys show up every day, and they understand how important it is to have a good practice, because that is going to carry over into the ball game.
Hank Puckett's a pretty good name for a linebacker, I think. He's made a bunch of tackles there at Bixby, right?
Yeah, Hank is a special player. He's fast, he's tough, he's a good leader. His older brother Jack Puckett was an excellent player for us, and has starting middle linebacker now for Central Oklahoma. And then we've got a younger Puckett coming up who's a freshman right now. So very good family, sports-oriented family, and a tough family.
What do you do during the bye week? Do you like having an off week?
It's different. I'll be honest with you there. You're so ramped up and you're used to week in and week out, the rigors, the grind, the stress. And then now all of a sudden we don't have a team to prepare for. We have a bye week earlier in the year, but the cool thing about that is we know who we're preparing for, so we can kind of get a head start. Right now we don't necessarily know that. And so we've cut our practices back. We're going out trying to stay sharp. We're practicing for about an hour and 20 minutes and repping some scenarios. Yesterday we went through two overtimes and those scenarios and what they look like and what we should expect in those. Today we worked a 2-minute situation, time on the clock, moving the chains, everything like that. And then tomorrow we're going to work a couple different situations. Just it's something different, but something that needs to be done in an area that we thought that we could bring value as a football program.
Well, Lauren, we wish you the best of luck on defending the championship and continued success, and we appreciate your time and know it's valuable.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys for having us on. Thank you.
All right. Lauren Montgomery, the head coach at Bixby. Again, he's won 8 state championships there just at Bixby and many more as an assistant at Jenks. Only coach at those 2 places. Coached his first job coming out of Northeastern State under the great Alan Trimble. And Bixby is a machine. If you have not read the article by Bill Hasen comparing this current run the Spartans are on to the Jenks Trojans from 1997, I believe, to about 2001. It's a great read in comparison to the 2 dominant programs that we've had in the large class, I think, in the state's history. Those 2 runs are teams that will go down forever as being some of the very best. 1997, Jenks Trojans defense allowed less than 80 yards rushing the entire season and won in the state championship game in dominant fashion, the same way that Bixby did a year ago in the state championship game against Wasso. Our next guest coming up will be Jake Corbin, the head coach of the Choctaw Yellow Jackets, as they are in Class 6A Division II. Choctaw gave Bixby a run for their money in the state championship in the Division II level a couple of years back, just about as close as anybody's been to Bixby in this current run of the last 6 seasons that they've had. They've been fantastic. So we'll look forward to talking to him and a guy that's had a lot of success coaching there at Choctaw after a couple of stops at Del City in Sapulpa. I think let's throw up the Class 4A bracket while we wait on Coach Corbin. And we'll take a look here in a bracket that could be wide open in terms of several teams with a chance to win this one. And really some teams that I think have potential to win some games on the road in the first round of the playoffs. But let's bring in Jake from Choctaw and talk about the Yellow Jackets season this year. Choctaw has been extremely good and they've been on a run here the last few seasons that is outstanding. What's up, Jake? How you doing, man?
Hey, not much. You got me?
I got you.
Okay.
53-25 in his 7th year there at Choctaw. First, I want to ask you, has the split been good for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I think anybody would be lying to you if they don't think that it was. And I think that, got a couple theories on that. I think it kind of allowed for a little bit of an arms race that I don't know that anyone would have been able to, put together if the split wouldn't have happened, because I think that, before the split, I wasn't here, obviously, but just a guess is you never really felt like you could kind of get your head above water enough to build something, because you're just getting beat on every week, and I feel like, it allowed the smaller 6As to kind of gather a little bit of momentum and, take time to kind of, take care of the roots without just having to worry about the fruit each and every week. And it's helped for sure.
Hey, I couldn't agree with you more. That's one of the reasons why I'm for the split in the lower classes is that really the best thing we're all here for is for participation, for everybody to get a chance to go out and play some football. And when you feel like, I think, hey, we are competing against schools that are twice our size or a lot bigger with a lot more participation, then it kind of thwarts people going out for football. So I love that. Tell me how you built this program to the point where you guys have been able to reload year after year after year. What's that taken?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't, talk about, brag on my assistant coaches that have been here, with me from the jump. and do that. And also, guys that are involved in Little League programs, which is where I'm at right now is, Aaron McConnell, Glenn Wagner, guys that, no one ever hears about or talks about, or guys that, have helped build our youth program into what it is. And, and so it's like the guys that we have now are guys that I've been coaching since, they were in, third, fourth, fifth grade, and so it's kind of, you're not, who your quarterback is in first grade. We've identified those guys. We work with those guys and, your linemen and, all those guys. And so it's, you're trying to build something that lasts. We talk about it all the time. Are
we losing him? Jake's a busy man. If he's frozen in time there, we can go back and get to him. Because I want to talk a little bit about some of the specific personnel that he's got at Choctaw that have really made some plays for them this season. We had Cash Williams, their quarterback, as our Farm Bureau Insurance Sports Animal Player of the Week just a couple of years ago. And he is committed to Tennessee on a baseball scholarship, a really, really good athlete that can make a big difference at that position. Juju Smith, electric as a wide receiver. Sorry, Jake, we lost you there for a minute. I did want to talk to you about some of your individual players, and I've had a chance to see quite a few of your games over the last couple of years. Cash Williams has been really good at quarterback. I think his athletic ability can transcend that position where you don't have to worry about whether he can run or throw it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in people, in our offense and what we do takes a long time to, kind of get going. And so, I feel like we're playing our best ball right now. And obviously he's a huge part of that. Just getting those reps under his belt, early in the season. And he's just progressively gotten better as the season's gone on and just, continue to understand, a very difficult position to play. And just, like I said, playing his best ball. And he's, a little bit different than what we've had because, he's a little bit more physical. He's a bigger kid, can hold up in the run game. He's played running back for us before. He's played receiver. He's played safety. He's played linebacker. Now he's playing, quarterback. And so, his athleticism and, good decision-making and intelligence and all that allows him to kind of do some more things in the run game than maybe what we've done in the past.
Can anybody run with Juju Smith on your team?
Yeah, I don't know. That guy, he's kind of quietly having, has to be one of the better seasons in the state right now that no one's really talking about. And the guy's just doing absolutely fantastic, and just lighting it up. And so he continues just to get, better and better each and every week. And, it's like you'll look at his stat line and he has 5 catches for 4 touchdowns or something. And you're like, that's pretty good. Get that guy the ball. Maybe I'll be smarter and get him the ball more.
A guy that's always shown up to me that plays really, really tough, and he's a defensive lineman, so you don't really his name is in the spotlight a lot. Marcus McGrew.
Yeah.
Tell me about him, and he seems to be really causing a big wreck in the line of scrimmage a lot.
Well, Marcus has worked really hard to transform his body. His body fat percentage is super, super low right now. And he's slim and trim, and he's always been big Mark. And now he's a little bit less big Mark, but it's really increased his athleticism. And he worked really hard to kind of, slim himself down and be able to be a guy that can play at a super high level for, 60, 70 snaps a game, where I think earlier in his career, it may have been, 15 to 20. And so he's worked real hard at that in the off season. And you're right. He's just kind of we kind of tease him, we're like, Marcus, you got to get better celebrations and all that kind of stuff for his sacks. Cause he's just the nicest kid in the world. Best teammate, doesn't care about getting any kind of accolades or glory, just all in it for the team. And, can't say enough great things about him, but man, he's an absolute just wrecking ball in the middle.
I know another Mark that could transform his body a little bit. Maybe we need to hook up in the off season. That could work out well. This class, man, you've been knocking heads with some of these guys. Like we mentioned before, you and Bixby have had some epic battles. Stillwater is the same. And the teams that got buys here have gotten to be a little bit familiar with each other. So what are your thoughts on, you saw Deer Creek earlier in the year, very close game. Stillwater and Muskogee played a really close game last week.
Yeah, they're that's kind of who we thought at the beginning of the year, and we'd hoped to be mentioned in that group. We kind of knew who they were. We were hoping we'd be there with them. And it started off a little bit slow, but feel like we're playing a little bit better. But all those guys are really good. They have a great coaching staff, great players. They continue to reload each and every year, and it's been a fun rivalry. And I think that's been good for football. When we came here 7 years ago, it's kind of crazy because everyone's like, who's your rival? And you don't really have a rival at Choctaw. But I was like, man, I want to, we want to be mentioned with those guys. We want to go compete with those guys, the Stillwaters and, and Muskogees and Deer Creeks and, at the time, Bixby's and all those kind of guys, because you're trying to build something, that can, be good year in and year out. You don't have a chance to go compete with those same teams, because I have a great deal of respect for them and they do a tremendous job.
All right, what's going on at the junior high state, or what's going on at your high school stadium right now with the junior high? Tell me what you're doing.
We have our 5th grade INFC is playing in the semifinals on Thursday, so we're about to kick off fifth grade practice and, get those guys rolling. And, a lot of those guys practice with us, with the high school, and do 7-on-7 with us in the summer. And, and all our little league guys if you show up here, you're going to see a bunch of little jackets running around everywhere at practice and before games and all that kind of stuff. And, so it's been real cool. Our older guys coach them, our high school guys. And, so they run same O, same D, same terminology. And, it's been real cool just, watching, all those little guys want to be the big guys. And it's been real fun.
Are there any Corbins out there?
Man, there's a little Corbin. Yeah, there's a little Corbin out there. So he's a little QB1 out here and plays safety for us and all that. And, there's a lot of carryover, like a lot of guys, because, we have a bunch of little brothers off kids I coach on my team. A lot of my coaches on staff here at Choctaw have kids, on that team. And so it's a pretty cool deal.
We can't describe him as an undersized linebacker with a big motor like his dad. Is that right?
Yeah. Somehow he's a little bit taller than dad. So hopefully that continues. I'm like, if I can get him to 5'10", I'd be excited.
Hey, Jay, good luck, man. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you as always. Have a great night.
All right. This is Jay Corbin at Choctaw. He's busy. He's out there with the fifth grade team in the semifinals. So I think that's one way that you can build a program is to get everybody in the community in the same page there. And I'm sure they'll all be rooting for that group. So Robert Jones next, coming up from Del City. The Eagles have had a great season this year. They're perfect undefeated and gearing up for a big playoff run in a class that's ultra competitive there. Let's take a look at the 4A bracket again for a little bit while we wait there. Let's see. Bethany and Clinton first round. Ada has had a big year this year. The Cougars, the 1-point win over Broken Bow, 28-27. And that was a good win for Ada to finish 9-1 on the season. Wagoner, of course, is the defending state champions in that group. And then you've got Tuttle down there with only 2 losses this year. One of those was to Guthrie, and that Guthrie team is, again, one of the top contenders in Class 5A, with the only loss this season being to Carl Albert. So that class, I think, here still on the other side of the bracket, you've got Blanchard, a Blanchard team that is more than solid. Also with on the other side of that bracket, Newcastle and Elk City, 2 teams that have had a lot of success this year. Newcastle went on the road and beat Bethany last week. Poto undefeated in Miami in the playoffs for the first time. Brandon Tyler, first year for him at Salisaw on the job. So the Black Diamonds will travel across the state to face Cushing, a team that played Wagner very close again this year. So if you're in this Class 4A bracket, you are really, I think for the most part, all of these teams can compete. And again, we really didn't talk that much about Clinton. They've struggled a little bit. They're a district champion that has always had a lot of success in the postseason. And we know that the Red Tornadoes, it's just this time of the year when they start to play a little bit different and a little bit better brand of football. So our 4A representative tonight is going to be Jeff Craig. Had really good this year in Marlow and Sulphur, and they pushed the Chargers in games at home. So we'll ask Brett about what they plan to do to bounce back off of those. And Marlow, for that district, they have to go on the road in the first round to face Metro Christian, and that's a tough assignment for a home team to be facing an outlaw squad that defeated district champion Perkins Tryon in the non-district portion of the schedule. So here's another one where, to me, you've got 2 favorites in this class. However you want to rank them, Lincoln Christian, Heritage Hall, they're both very, very good. You've got, again, then several teams that I think that can make some noise to get to that level. Sulphur, Lincoln Christian game will be a very good one. And you talk about a Marlow team that I think is absolutely capable of getting to the semifinals in this class, even though they might have to go on the road twice to do it. Perkins, who is also a really, really good team, they're at the top half of that bracket, will be challenged by Holland Hall. So we'll see if there's potentially some new blood in there in that class. Throw up the 2A bracket. 64 teams in Class 2A. And, so you got 5 full weeks of playoffs, and Washington is the defending state champ in that bracket. But there are some contenders here across the board. And I want to give some credit to some of the teams that this year may have exceeded some expectations. One of those would be Ida Bell Warriors, undefeated on the season. They had a game against Broken Bow that was, I guess, canceled due to a storm. And that night, one of the state's fiercest and oldest rivalries. I did not get to finish that game, and I'm sure the Warriors would really like to get back at the Savages. But they were perfect on the season. They've got a good young group of players, and that's going to be a team that I think you can watch out for in the playoffs. It could be pretty dangerous in that portion of the bracket. Also, the Kiefer Trojans beat Victory Christian to finish a perfect 10-0 on the season. They've got a tough first-round opponent. That District 7, District 8 matchup are ones that could really go either way, and all of those districts are very competitive and some good teams. Jones, the head coach at Del City.
It's not going to have empathy for them. Our kids have some tough home lives, but I always tell them once you step into the building, that doesn't matter. So they really need somebody that can really understand where they're coming from, and somebody that's going to give them some tough love. So that tough love has really turned into success for us. And, we take a lot of pride in our strength and conditioning program as well. And then we have other successful programs. Our basketball program is very successful and won state championships. So we have kids coming over from basketball. Our track team has won some state championships. So we got a lot of good programs, and we do a good job of sharing kids. And then when you throw in great coaches like Coach Hatchett into the mix, it just adds a different kind of element that we have at Del City.
Yeah, and I love how you guys are able to not have guys that necessarily specialize in your relationship with Lenny's got to be good with that, because a lot of times it's tough for a school like Del City to have, multiple sports in which you're good. You want maybe to keep your own guys or be protective, but you guys have done a great job of keeping that tradition alive in all those sports.
Yeah, I think, and that's the way it needs to be. I tell our guys all the time, go take a break from football. Go take a couple months off, go play some basketball. And it really helps your defensive back skill players and receivers, because they're over there running, doing agility. And then you're in a winning program, whenever, regardless of the sport, when you're going through stages of having to be a state champion and going through those pressure moments in the playoffs and the state tournament, it's only going to transfer to the football field. So we've been able to do a great job at that, and our kids really love it. They take pride in being one of the top football programs in the state and being one of the top basketball programs. And also track, I think this year we're going to have a chance to break some state records on the track. We got some speed with LaDanian and Rodney. We got Braylon Adama. We got a couple of young kids, Rickland Holmes. So we got a real special track team that are going to do a lot of special things as well. So it's fun to coach these athletes.
I probably wouldn't have been on the 4x1 there.
Oh yeah, it's pretty tough. It's going to be some tough competition. I honestly think we'll go 1, 2, or 3 in the 100 this year. I really believe that.
I do believe it. You told me at the beginning of the season that you thought you might have the best secondary in the state, and then I get to see you guys play in week 1 at Choctaw, and they pick off about 3 or 4 passes in that game. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4, but it was a pass. So those guys, tell me, they lived up to your expectations for the rest of the year?
Oh, absolutely. I knew coming into the year, because we had DeMar Turner. He started all last year as a sophomore for us. And I just knew LaDanian was very special. Even before he got the TCU offer, I just knew what kind of player he was. And he has exceptional ball skills. He kind of reminds me of a DB we had a couple years ago, Jeff Foreman. And then you throw Braylon Adama in there. He's a 3-year starter. And then we moved Jashawn McAllister to safety. So it's the best secondary I had since I've been here. We got 2 safeties that'll come up and tackle you, come up and hit. And when you got 2 lockdown corners like that, it just makes it very special. Then we got a good pass rush. We moved Rickland Holmes to defensive end, so that gives you a lot of speed out there. And then Rodney Fields has been playing some linebacker for us. We moved him to Mike Backer. So it's just been real special for us. And then those guys on the outside, they're just special athletes, man. LaDanian is real special. I said this on the show, on the Sports Channel. I think right now he's playing the best football in the state. I think he's the best player overall. He's able to lock down one side of the field. He has over 1,000 yards receiving. He broke the touchdown record at Del City with 17 receiving touchdowns, and he's averaging like 27 yards a catch. And he has over 600 yards in the return game. So he's just very special. So when you have those kind of players on the 5A level, I think the passing games on the 5A aren't as good as the 6A2 and 6A1. So it just makes it pretty easy for us when we go out there.
Jeff Foreman playing at Arkansas State right now. Rodney Fields, running back. He is. Tell me, you look at him a little bit, and I think people may judge him by his size and say, "Yeah, he's a little small," but he is able to outrun angles. to me, and he runs bigger. I mean, running backs are hard. Again, don't knock a guy because he's small. We've seen some great running backs in the NFL, and maybe the greatest of all time, and Barry Sanders, that's undersized. So tell me about him and what you think and what you see of him going through the playoffs here, and then what you see of him at Oklahoma State.
Well, he does look small in stature as far as height, but Rodney's 195 pounds. And I think once he gets into a college program, he'll be easily 215. He reminds me a lot of Tyreek Hill just because how Tyreek progressed to a receiver. I remember when Tyreek first came to Oklahoma State, he was playing running back, and I can see Rodney doing some things like that. He also reminds me of Presley just on how he's able to do special things with the ball in his hands. We're going to utilize him at receiver as well. That's one of the things that we haven't really been able to show this year. We really hadn't had the opportunity just because of some of the scores we had, but he's special at receiver. So if you can get him and LaDainian on one side and you can still put Rickland Holmes back there in the backfield, you got 3 Division I players out there at one time. So Rodney's going to be special. I think he's going to play a little bit of slot and running back just because I think once they see his hands and see how he runs routes, they're going to see that's going to be an opportunity to get him on the field early, especially when you got Ali coming back next year. But I think he's going to do special things up there in the return game as well because he's a great returner. He's fearless on catching the punts, on kickoff returns. He had a couple of touchdowns this year. I think he's going to do some things up there that people in Stillwater are going to be very happy about.
Tell me about this class. I know you know all about Carl Albert. I mean, we just had Jake on at Chateau, played there. You played there. Mike played there. They're undefeated this year. Guthrie played them a great game. Elgin's also undefeated. And so this looks like to shape up to be a great race for a championship.
Yeah, it's a special year. I've been in Oklahoma, back and coaching Oklahoma for 7 years. And even when I was in high school, I don't remember 3 teams going undefeated. And I was speaking to Coach Rose, out of all his state championships in his whole career, he never went undefeated once. So it's a special year when you got 2 Mid-Del schools going undefeated. But I told our kids just to be careful because the last team in Del City in 1993 that went undefeated lost in the first round to Lawton, I believe Lawton Knight. So I'm excited about our bracket. We got Elgin and Guthrie on our side, but Guthrie plays Lawton Mac. They're 8-2. Elgin's gonna have a tough matchup with Piedmont. We got a tough matchup with Pryor. Pryor has a great quarterback. They have a great scheme. I don't know who their offensive coordinator is, but he does a great job on using motion and mixing some things up. So this is going to be a tough bracket. Whoever comes out of this bracket this year in 5A probably historically can go down as one of the better teams in 5A history.
Don't disagree with that at all. And you're right. Last year there was an upset 4-1 in this bracket with Midwest City losing to Piedmont. So Robert, appreciate your time, man. Keep up the great work.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you.
You bet. All right. Great to talk to Robert Jones. Again, he's in his 3rd year there at Del City with the record of 38-5. All right. Our next stop will be to Blanchard. Visit with Jeff Craig. Led Blanchard to the 2012 state championship. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, what's going on, Mark?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Hanging out at Mazio's. Got coach's show going on. Got to slap a little buffet on here in a minute, and so life will be good.
In my ratings, Mazio's ranch dressing is number 1. It's unchallenged. It's the 4A champion.
Adam told me I needed to put a little ranch in the pitcher, so I told him I might have to wipe a little off the side of my mouth here in a minute.
Okay, what is relevant about these things? The song "Irreplaceable" by Beyonce and the movie Spider-Man 3. I mean, what do you remember those?
Hang on just a second, Mark. I'm gonna have to fix I needed my headphones on and I didn't do it. Say that again on
That's okay. All right. I said, what's relevant about Beyonce's song "Irreplaceable" and then the movie Spider-Man 3? I think we're up to about Spider-Man 9 right now.
You're gonna have to tell me because I don't know.
That's a number 1 song and the number 1 movie in 2007, a million years ago, when you took over the head coaching job in Blanchard.
Woo! Yeah. Well, that is a while back.
That's maybe why you don't remember the songs in the movies. I don't know. Maybe Beyonce is not your cup of tea, but Jeff's won 131 games at Blanchard in those 17 seasons. This has been a really, really good year for the Lions, who've got a veteran crew, especially at quarterback with Chance Cooksey, and he had a great season there and a multiple-year starter. So I think Jeff is frozen. He may be frozen on the ranch.
Sorry, I went away for a minute.
That's okay. You didn't miss anything. Tell me about this year. You guys lost in the non-district in a really, really difficult schedule of challenge. And I know that you knew that would prepare you for this Tri-City district, which is just every year super tough with rivals Newcastle and Tuttle.
Yeah, man, this district has been really, really tough for years, and we've always had tough times with our Tri-City rivals. When you've got Newcastle rolling up there and Tuttle's rolling up there, and Bethany's always been a tough out for us, and it's just been a grind. Our preseason schedule's always been usually pretty tough, and lost to a really good Piedmont team week 2, but I think those things prepared us for the run down the stretch, and it made our team better. And boy, it's been a rough road, but it's been a fun one, and we've somehow managed to come out on top.
What does it mean going into this playoffs, which will be challenging, to have a veteran like Carson Cooksey under center?
Well, anytime you can have a starting quarterback back, and especially when it's in his 3rd year as a starter, always bodes well for you, because they've been through a lot of things, they've seen a lot of things, they've been able to make adjustments to correct things, to read things, to see things, to understand the offense better, and to know where to go with it. I think that's probably been the biggest thing for him this year, is really just knowing where to go with the ball when something breaks down, or when my first or second read doesn't go. I can get to my 3rd read now, and he's so much better in that regard. And the guys that are around him have done such a great job catching it. I mean, so even some of the iffy throws he's made, we got guys that are hauling them in. So it's been a plus with those guys and having him. It's really made our offense click.
And you got depth, right? I mean, when you sent me some numbers today, there's a lot of different guys that he's been able to throw the ball to or hand the ball to, and just keeping track of your games. You've had different guys make big impacts each Friday night.
Yeah, we don't have one guy to rely on. We've got a lot of guys that we can spread the wealth to, and and that's a good thing about it, is you've got to respect those guys. You can't take one off. And we even had one of our younger guys came through for us in the Bethany game. That hadn't really done a whole lot for us, and he has a 100-yard plus reception day, and probably had only caught a few passes during the year, but stepped up when we needed him, when somebody else went down. But we've got 4 or 5 legitimate guys that we can throw the football to, so you can't really hone in on one. If you start honing in on one, that's going to free somebody else up. And the good thing about it is Carson does a really good job of finding that, and he doesn't rely on one. He knows he's got a plethora of guys out there he can throw the ball to, and he distributes it well.
Talk about your first round opponent. Cash is the team that you guys will face. They just shut out Clinton, who's a district champion 2 weeks ago. What are they doing right now to get them playing so well?
Well, I thought they've played really good defense all year. They've got some younger guys in there, but the thing about them is you watch them when they play. They fly around. They fly to the football. They don't stay blocked. They get off blocks. So you might get some movement on them, and a lot of teams have gotten movement on their front guys, but their linebackers get around that and make plays. But they'll get off and make plays for you. So they don't really give up big plays. You're going to have to grind it out if you want to grind it out on them, and we've got to be willing to be patient and run the football on them, or take quick hits or whatever before we try to get the big one. But defensively, they've been playing really, really well. And I think offensively, they really kind of honed in on they really kind of changed in the last few weeks offensively. They were running more spread. Now they're running more kind of a wing T type offense, where they're running some jet motion stuff and some jet sweeps and then some downhill runs off the jet sweep fake. So they've condensed their offense into that and getting it in playmakers' hands, and they've letting them make plays. So they've been a little bit more productive on the offensive side when they've gone to that.
This 4A bracket's something else, man. It's almost like a college football semifinal, because you can have a championship game in the second round. And so if you do advance this week, you're going to have your work cut out for you each and every week. It's got to be a great challenge as a coach to know that there's a lot of great coaches in this bracket and a lot of teams that are capable of going on a 4-game run.
Yeah, it's 4A is wide open. I don't. I know Wagner's a content. Wagner's Wagner, and they're always going to be right there in the mix. And Poto's really, really good. But there's no telling who can come out of this with a championship. And there's probably 8 teams that any given night can win a football game and can beat anybody. And so you really just don't know who's going to be standing at the end. So you've got to play every week. And if you take a week off or you have a bad week, you're going to go home. And that's going to, and that really, most of that starts right now in round 1 and definitely in round 2. There's some state champion quality teams that are going to go home in round 2. And, it's just really, really tough and really, really wide open, but it'll be exciting. It'll be an exciting run to try to get there.
All right, I got 2 quick questions before I let you go. Is that a Carly Craig jersey behind you? She works with Squirtle. I know Adam wanted me to make sure to mention that they're opening up the season in Alva on Friday night.
Yeah, that's no, not quite, but a little bit big. I think that's on the boys' side on the, but not a Carly Craig jersey. But
you mean they let Jeff Word in there to do a coach's show also?
Yeah, we were going to have him in today, but they've got their little basketball bash today, so he couldn't make it today. So he's at the gym right now watching the junior high kids and then the high school kids hooking it up. So we're getting close to basketball season. So as you said, I got to go to Tahlequah Saturday to watch Carly play.
He's making them run lines, even the 5th graders. All right, what kind of pizza are you getting tonight?
I'm always kind of in that. I'm always on the sausage side, and they do a little of that Alfredo pizza, man. I'm kind of in on that. I kind of like that. And then you can't pass on the bread, the little meat, cheesy bread stuff.
More meat, less vegetables. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, bud.
All right, good to talk to you. Jeff Craig at Blanchard, looking for his 2nd state championship. 5-1 all time against Cash. Dropped one to the Bulldogs a couple years ago. Let's bring in Brett Bogert in his 9th season at Heritage Hall. 9 straight district championships, record of 109-7, which is pretty good. Hey, Brett, the last 2 weeks, you guys have had some good games against some really good competition. I got a chance to see Marlowe earlier in the year. I was really impressed with the way that they run the ball and their quarterback. Is that a good thing for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Sulphur and Marlowe, I think I think they're ranked in different polls in the top 5, and I fully believe that they're 2 of the top 5 programs in the state. So having those two games back to back, facing some adversity, we were tied with Sulphur 14-14 at half. Had a great second half to come away with that victory. Then we were trailing in the 4th quarter against Marlowe, 28-21. And had to really get 2 drives together, get some stops on defense, and it helps to have number 7, Andy Bass, because he really stepped up those last 2 drives and able to come away with a 35-28 victory. But, I told Coach Weber after the game, it would not shock me to see them again down the road. They were a very physical team. Obviously, the Webers are legends around here. And, maybe you got a little help from Jody and Joe. But Matt does a great job with Marlowe, and they were ready for us. They had a great game plan. They controlled the clock, controlled the ball. We were just fortunate enough to have it one last time to go get the victory, but I got a lot of respect for those guys. But yes, it's been huge for us having those 2 games, getting ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, the Webers in that stadium, one of the more iconic high school playoff games of all time. There when West was
absolutely.
In school. So you guys are familiar with each other some.
Absolutely.
Okay, I've seen Andy Bass play. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know how to describe him. I mean, he looks like a tank, but he runs. He's as fast as a jet. So he's a quarterback, but I don't know. Tell me about the thought process of developing him, and then it was great last year at that position. And so how you identified what his strength was going to be.
Yeah, he obviously has the base set, the base tools. He loves the weight room. He's so disciplined. His diet, everything. He's the most disciplined kid I've ever coached. So he's going to put in the work, and he's going to do what you ask him to do. And he'll be the first to admit he needed to throw better. He got better and better as the season went on last year, but he still felt like he could really improve in that area. He improved his mechanics. His throwing motion is so much quicker. It's shorter. He rotates so much better through the ball. He's worked on his touch passing. I worked on a little bit of everything. He always had the cannon, but he's really worked on his touch as well. Then he had the straight line speed, and another thing that he really thought he should work on was his agility. Now he can stop on a dime. He's making cuts like a running back. He can, and with the top end speed 10.5 in the 100, and he wants to break 10.5. He wants to go 10.3 in track season this year, which I wouldn't put it past him. That guy works for it. He works for everything he's earned. He's got the respect of the coaching staff, the teammates, everybody around here at the school, and I'm glad he's our signal caller. That's for sure.
And it's fair to say, don't limit his potential at the next level, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. He's changed so much. Actually, Matt Weber said it afterwards. He was like, that's as good a quarterback as I've seen coaching. And that's, he's been coaching a long time. I've seen a lot of really good players. He said he reminded him a lot of Kyler Murray, which, he's got the top end speed, the way he's throwing the ball. I would not put anything against him, and who knows what he's going to play at the next level. Obviously the Sooners do a good job. So I'm really interested to see what they do with him, but I'd be shocked if they don't let him put it in the air a few times when he's down there in Norman.
Matt would have him running the wishbone, and he wouldn't throw it 5 times all season. Or Jody,
that's
sure.
fair. That's
Jody
fair. That is true.
I talked to your dad when I saw you guys play Millwood earlier this year, and he was really touting the younger players in the program, and that you guys have a ton of participation coming up at the next levels. You guys are going to go up to 4A next year. Talk about what it's like to kind of build the program from the floor up.
Yeah, it's been great. I think we have 24 freshmen, which is the most freshmen we've had in years. I think we had 62 total on the team, which is great. Got some really good participation in the 7th and 8th grade as well. We're going to lose a lot of guys. 5 starters on the offensive line, obviously our quarterback, a bunch of receivers, losing a lot of guys, but we feel really good about this young group going up, and they're going to be thrown right into the fire next year in 4A. Actually, they're going to be thrown into fire week 0 against Millwood, and then week 1 against Lincoln Christian, and then we're going into 4A district. So, no, it's going to be fun, and we're really excited about where it's going. But like I try to instill in our older guys, it's the reason we've sustained success is because our older guys have always taken care of our younger guys, and this group of seniors has been really good at that. We've got Grayson Hume, who's our center. He works with the freshman centers after practice, working on their snaps, working on their steps. Jack Harris, another guy that's working with the young guys' steps. Andy's throwing with the quarterbacks, giving them little help, little tips here. Rashad and Jordan helping the younger guys. So that's how we've been able to sustain the success, because they truly care about the program. And I think I said it before. It's like, you play here for 4 years, but it's much bigger than 4 years. And our guys really understand that, and they give back to the program while they're in it. And then when they're gone, guys like Gavin Freeman still coming back and watching, and Shep and Barry Sanders and those guys, they still care about this program, which is so cool for our younger guys. And then hopefully in turn that they see that, and then they pay that back as well when they're the older guys.
That's cool for old guys like me to see those guys running around. That's
Absolutely.
something special that you guys have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have really real big guys up there on the offensive line. They're all really good size, and they're all in really, really good shape. Yeah,
exactly. I think Z and Charlie, depending on how many pieces of pizza they have at film lunch, might be the heaviest, might scale out the heaviest. But at the very most, they're 250. But then, Eddie Johnson, Jack Harris, Grayson, those guys are all, maybe 205, 215, 220 at the most. And really, frankly, Charlie is the only one who was a true offensive lineman coming in his freshman year. Xavier played quarterback in middle school. He played JV quarterback his freshman year. Jack Harris was a free safety. Eddie Johnson was a fullback linebacker. So these guys made sacrifices to get in there. And, they were guys their sophomore year when we didn't really have a bunch of true linemen. They just wanted to play. And so they went to those positions and took hold of them and haven't given them up. And they really have become, maybe the best unit we've ever had around here. And you're right. It's not because of the size, but they're in great shape. They're great athletes. Anybody that watches us knows we love to pull, run counter, everything that we try to do. We're trying to get those guys out in space because they're athletes as well. And if we can get those guys, they're a little bit bigger, but out in space are so athletic that they do really well on outside linebackers and at the secondary. So that provides a lot of advantage, but they are, some of the best shape. Them, Andy, and Jordan are probably the best shape of anybody on our team.
Yeah, they'll get out there and strike you. I think that's a very,
Absolutely.
very key component of what you guys are able to do. All right, North Rock Creek is coming in, and this is a young program that I think they're doing a really good job of building. Caleb Hawkins is my high school coach. Gary Higgins is there, and Gary's been telling me all about Caleb, and he's had some good games this year. Tell me what you've seen from him, and then North Rock Creek on film.
Yeah, they've done a really good job. I think their fourth year ever having a football team and making the playoffs is, you got to give them a ton of credit. We had the Kingfisher film, huge win there. They played well. They did everything right there. Had a great scheme. Weren't afraid of Kingfisher. Went and hit them in the mouth and got a huge victory, which ended up getting them in the playoffs. Then they played Metro last week, which things kind of went wrong for them early and they got out of hand, but they're doing the right things. You could tell they're coached well. They got some really good players. Their free safety running back number 22 is an absolute stud. We got to tackle him. I mean, we got to tackle him low. He reminds me a lot of a couple guys we played the last couple of weeks. The Marlowe quarterback Gilbert, and then the Plainview running back. He reminds me a lot of them. The way he runs, he's physical. So we got to get after him. But they have some really good schemes. You can tell that they're on the rise. They're doing the right thing. So I expect them to stick around in the playoff picture for the next few years. And we told our guys tonight the biggest upsets obviously happen in the first round. 1 versus 4. Don't be that team. Just don't think about who you're playing. You've got to be prepared no matter who it is. And North Rock Creek's getting our full respect. And we know that to get to a championship, you have to be playing like that way before then. So our preparation's been good so far. Had a good day of practice. So we're locked in, absolutely dialed in on the Cougars, and have a lot of respect for what they've done in such a short amount of time.
If you can remember back to early in August, you guys scrimmaged against Washington. What do you remember about Brad's team who's coming up next on the show?
They are fantastic. Those 2 tight ends, man, they obviously stick out, but I mean, the quarterback is a stud. I mean, he absolutely makes that thing go. He reminds me a lot of Andy. He has full command of the offense. He's an extension of the coaching staff. And I was very impressed. I don't know the running back's name, number 5. I was super impressed with him. He's physical. He's not a huge guy, but he runs really physical, has really good agility as well. So I feel like a lot of people get dialed in on those 2, obviously D1 talent tight ends, which they deserve to get a lot of lot but they have some other dudes that absolutely play football, and their defense will absolutely come downhill and strike you. So I have a lot of respect for Coach Beller and their program and what they've been able to do. And that was a fun one. I think we tied 7-7 in a quarter of football. So that was pretty fun. It was a great way to get our season going, but have a ton of respect for what those guys do. And I expect to be seeing them playing in that final.
The mustache is fantastic. You could play in Graham Colton's bluegrass band right now.
You need to put a word in for me. He's going to New York City over Thanksgiving, so hopefully we're still playing. So I can't play in that one, but I'll hop in next time.
Okay, I think that would be awesome. So, or at least you could at least sneak into the Jones Assembly, and maybe and get in the green room or something like that.
Well, absolutely. I can at least fake a strum in the background. Like, let me do something back there.
Hey, good luck in the playoffs, Brad. Great visiting with you. Congratulations on a great season.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Mark. You guys have a good one.
All right, Brett Bogert, the head coach at Heritage Hall, trying to defend their championship. I was going to ask him one more question. If he'd rather win a game 72-56 like he did in the state championship game last year, or if it's a win is a win. Let's fire that one to Brad, whose team has played some unbelievable defense this year. I think they're on a streak right now of shutting out 6 straight opponents. You win 72-56. Are you happy?
I think Coach K, we would have a hard time not having to take him to the hospital if someone scored 70 or 56 points against him. So a win is a win, but for the health of my staff and as well as what our defensive coaching staff works with our defense, I think that I'm not saying last year was nice to win 17-14, but it definitely made him feel a little bit more comfortable that the defense was doing good.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look at this. You guys haven't given up 56 points all year, have you?
I really don't know. I had a guy tell me that our starting defense has given up 17 points on the year. I really don't know the total, but our defense has played extremely well this year.
Yeah, I would say so. And you guys, and he talked about the 2 tight ends, and you've got another defensive end up front that you have so many players that can be physical on the line of scrimmage. It has to be a nightmare for Class 2A teams to be able to go up against that defensive front. Are they better? You've got a ton of guys back. Are they better than they were a year ago?
I think it's a work in progress. Nathan Spalding, he's played so much football over the past 3 or 4 years. He's going into his senior year playoffs, but he's already played in 3 straight state championship games. I mean, it's amazing that when you look back and think he was a freshman playing, but the progression, the work ethic, he really is our spark plug. But all three levels of defense, we have some good playmakers. We really do, and the physicality, the mental edge, the preparation that they put in to get ready for each game amazes me at the high school level of what they do to get ready for a game. I think, if we're there December 9th at 7 p.m. and we win another one, I think that you could make that argument that we are better than last year in some regards, maybe through the first 10 weeks. We've statistically maybe been better, but, last year's defense, what we were able to stop, especially in that state championship game against Millwood, was really, really impressive and going to be hard to outdo.
Well, when everybody comes back to reunions and all that stuff, I can tell you it's very important for the 2022 guys to be better than the 2023 guys. And so that's something that people are going to talk about forever and ever and ever. So for the record, this year's defense has given up 38 points all season long, 7 in district play, and that was to Frederick way back in September. So you guys are on a streak of 6 consecutive shutouts, which is really, really, really good. I was going to ask about the tradition there in Washington, what you've established. You were a player there, and right now the program is rocking. And I talked to Brett about the freshmen that he has right there. You guys also, people are telling me everywhere I go about this 8th grade team that you've got. And I know we probably don't want to talk a whole lot about them right now because they'll get their due in the future. But the program, you got to be happy the shape that it's in.
Yeah, our kids at Washington grow up going through Little League. I think we have four teams in our Little League program that's playing for a state championship Saturday. The other programs were right there. One got beat in the semifinals. The other one is a class that couldn't even make last year, that didn't make the championship or the semifinals. And so it's just continuing to grow. And kids want to grow up to be Washington Warriors. I think right now in our junior and senior class, we have 15 kids that are helping Little League teams coach. Like they're going and going to our practice and then going out at 6 p.m. 2 or 3 nights a week and helping our Little League coaches coach our scheme. And that makes a huge difference by the time they get into the junior high ball. We don't get too worked up about our junior high records. We want to win, but we want to teach them to do it the right way. That way, by the time they're in high school, if we need them as a freshman or sophomore, they're ready to play. And, the 8th grade class is a very talented class, but they're going to come into some really, experienced players next year. And I think that it's going to help elevate their game in the future as well.
The Class 2A, Class A, and Class B playoffs are very unique. It's half as long as the regular season. I mean, so, we're not going to – it's going to – hopefully I've got my Christmas presents by the time that we have the state championship game, but you really have to prepare for battles. And then potentially even as a district championship team going on the road in the 3rd round of the playoffs and maybe have to traipse all the way across the state. So how do you view the playoffs and the length of the playoffs for a 2A team?
This being the last year, it's going to be 5 rounds. Yeah. I think that's unique that our kids realize that they've had a chance to play so much more football. I think that it's also helped our younger kids come along the way as well, because they really do. They get a half the season more practice. So the more we can go, I think the more it helps the future and the upcoming years. But it's a gauntlet. It really is. I mean, it forces you to manage practice a little bit differently, depending on your team's health. If you have a week where you get a big win, you have to go right back to it. You don't have a gap. You don't have a break. And that's the thing about 2A is I feel like 2A is a very deep class this year with a lot of teams that are very similar, as far as on levels. And so, you look at some of the potential 2nd round matchups in 2A, it is a gauntlet. And, the 1-4 matchups sometimes, but there's even some 2-3 matchups that you look at and go, okay, 2A is healthy, and I know it's going to divide into 2 divisions, but it is a very tough class, especially going 5 weeks. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to go right in order to win 5 straight games.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. At least you've established that tradition, because if we were having a Thanksgiving practice, I think my mom would call you and say, "Hey, I don't think Mark's coming today," So I hope you don't have to deal with that in Washington, where everybody's knows the expectation of the program. Adam wanted me to ask you about sideline interviews on Washington Warriors TV.
Well, they ask me each week if they can do something in the second half.
Yeah, they want to call a play. I would want to call a play, right?
Yeah, I mean I will tell you, our crew that we have doing our games does a great job. And Stuart McPherson's been around forever, and he knows those kids on a personal basis. So our kids have had a fun time with it, and I really think that our younger kids working the camera system and everything, they've had a blast. So it's turned into a spectacle of, where in the world is Nate Roberts going to be this next weekend, all that kind of stuff. It really has added some flavor to our viewers.
I love that. Love the students getting involved too, because that's what Squirtle's mission is all about, for sure. How's your daughter doing? She was injured last year in the state championship game. I want to ask about her because I know she's a phenomenal athlete in her own right.
She is ready to go. She is finally released. Dr. Bond gave her his final approval to start her, I guess pitch count, if you want to say, to increase her time. And she's trying to prove to Coach Simon that she's 100% fine, and he's trying to ease her into it. So there's a little bit of battle of wheels going on in practice that I get to hear about every night between my wife and Kelby and then Coach Simon the next morning. So, but she's doing great. I think the fact that she made it to that state championship game and just got a taste of it before she got hurt, I think has been her motivating drive. And I've never been more happy of her for how she's handled this adversity, especially in the situation, than anything she's ever done.
Yeah, she's playing a great game when that happened, unfortunately. Well, Coach, best of luck. You got a 25-game winning streak going right now, 45 of the last 46, and defending state champs in Class 2A. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you down the line.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet. Brad Beller, the head coach at Washington. The Warriors, perfect, undefeated, 10-0 this year. Like I said, on a run of 6 consecutive shutouts. So they're playing great on both sides of the football. Let's welcome in Robert Bernard, the head coach at Fairview. What's up, Robert? How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Do you feel a lot of pressure from the Fairview Mafia, all the diesel horse there that they're putting up training centers and then media moguls and all that kind of stuff?
No, not a lot. Those guys are great. They've done a lot of things for our program. Obviously, had to get that in the background so everybody kind of see it. We spend a lot of time in here as a team, and everything they've done for our program, so much appreciated. Those guys just kind of have backed us and supported us in everything. If we've ever asked them for anything, they're always here to help. So nothing but great appreciation for those guys.
But what is it about Fairview that makes it such a special community?
I think it's just the way they support us. We drive all the way out to Hooker and Texoma, and we have guys that parents that show up at 6:00 and the game doesn't kick off till 7. So just the support that they give these kids. We go down to Burns Flat and some of our other drives, and we've got more people in the stands than they do. So the fact that they just get behind us and support us in every way, whether it's buying meals or whatever, they just support everything we do.
That's outstanding. You guys have followed up last year's state championship with an excellent season, maybe even better if you look at the numbers than it was a year ago in the regular season. So what did it mean last year to win? And Coach Beller just talked about having 5 more weeks of practice. You return, especially Jax at quarterback. That's a big deal on this team. But you had to replace some good players off last year's team, and you guys have picked up where you left off.
It's been good. It's been a grind. Going through 15 games last year. At the end, you were just exhausted. I guess that's the best way that I could kind of describe how we felt as a coaching staff. Unbelievable feeling. You wouldn't change anything about it, but it was a grind. But to get 5 more weeks of practice just helped us, obviously, for this year that we're in now. So definitely had some big names and big players that we had to replace. And so, we felt like, those kids had good summers and through 7-on-7, through Summer Pride, and have made those leaps and bounds that we needed them to make, and we just kind of got better throughout the year. We were still a little worried at times about if we could make this kind of run again. And, our kids have kind of bought into the hard work and they just, expect to win. And when you do that, you're ahead of the game if you can go out there and you're expecting to win right off the bat.
What's the difference in your son, Jax Bernard, from this time a year ago to today?
more than anything, probably his maturity of the game to study it, to understand, what kind of coverages people are going to throw at him, some of the blitzes that people have thrown at him. One of the hardest ones was, I think Alva and Texoma have thrown some stuff at him that, we hadn't seen. And so for him to adapt in the game and understand, what they were trying to do and then take advantage of what we could do to go kind of counteract what they were doing. So he's matured in that way, studied a lot of film, obviously been in the weight rooms, gotten a lot bigger and stronger. So that in and of itself, is probably the major things that have helped him this year. Obviously having great receivers and an offensive line that takes care of you, that doesn't hurt either.
No, not at all. I'll tell you what, I was incredibly impressed. I can't wait to see him again, to see what his improvement is like from a year ago, because his arm strength and you guys' ability to space the field. Not all high school teams can throw the football to the sidelines with as much accuracy as you guys do. And I think that goes a long way in making it tough on high school teams to defend, especially at the Class A level. So for Jack's size, he has a much bigger arm. And that's not a knock on his size, because I think, he is a big enough kid, but he can really throw the football.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We feel like we have four or five guys that we can stick out there and that are going to, stretch you vertically. We can stretch you horizontally, sideline to sideline. And so we do a lot of concepts, and, for him to understand those, and our receivers, great route runners, and catch the ball and get into space where we need them. But we're going to end up with probably two guys that are going to have probably over 1,000 yards receiving in Class A. That's pretty solid.
You guys are also very good on the edge. I think that's another important aspect of high school football. If you can really control that and you can bring some pressure to the quarterback and cave that pocket down, a lot of times that's really tough for a team to have to deal with on the other side of the football. So you guys you feel like you're strong again in the interior?
Yes, absolutely. We kind of worried coming into this year that, we lost some good guys in that front seven on defense, and we were worried about our pass rush and could we contain or keep people inside if we had to. And then we were also worried about, somebody lines it up and runs it right at us. We lost a big chunk of our inside guys. So we're definitely a lot better in those areas than we were early in the year. But we have some speed that can come off the edge, and we have some bigger guys that have kind of stepped up on the inside. And again, I think we have the two best linebackers in Class A sitting back there. So when you have those two guys that kind of cover you up, that helps too.
All right, a bunch of people that are my age or older, they keep telling me, like, hey, you got to get in the cold tub, or you got to take a cold shower at the beginning of every day, and it'll make you feel like 15 years younger. Do they like getting in the cold tub there at the Diesel Horse Training Center?
Well, that's actually over in the locker room. So we don't have a cold tub over here just yet.
Do the coaches get in the cold tub in the locker room?
No, that's not happening.
All right, last question. You guys are probably going to have to take a bus trip eventually somewhere, but you are traveling a lot in the regular season. You mentioned you had to go to Hooker this year. That's a long way up there. What do you do on the bus? What are you going to take a 3-4 hour trip?
I put the old headphones in and drive.
So what music? You have a podcast going? You have music? What are you listening to?
Yeah, you probably don't want to listen to my music. I'm a Taylor Swift kind of.
I don't mind Taylor Swift.
Miley Cyrus, some country music. I throw in a little Nelly and Eminem every once in a while.
That would be a very interesting radio station for you to program. So as long as you keep winning state championships, you won't have to worry about taking a lower job like that.
That's right.
Hey, we wish you best of luck. I look forward to seeing. Allegedly, if you guys, I don't want to put any more pressure on you, that if you win this week, we'll be out there, and make sure Mrs. Antwine knows that we'll be hungry for some of those cookie bars.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Good deal. Thanks, Robert. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Robert Bernard, defending state champions, Fairview Yellow Jackets. They're perfect 10-0 on the season. All right, we got two more classes to go, and we were going to talk with Josh Bean, who's the head coach at Dewar. Next, the Dragons are undefeated. What up, Josh?
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you, man. Thank you for having us out this year. I had a blast watching you guys in Velma play, all the hospitality, having the Rustlers barbecue there waiting on us, and all the different pies. That was up there. Right there in the same level as Miss Antwine's cookies. That was fantastic. I don't know if he may have muted himself there. If he can't hear us. Yeah, no, Josh, you're muted. There we go.
Okay, I was getting all this feedback. It was reading it to me twice. I was hearing you twice.
Hey, listen, that's the worst thing that can happen in when you're broadcasting something. Are you good now?
I'm still doing it. I'm not really sure what I need to do here.
Okay, hold on, Corey. See if we can get him some help with his mix minus issue there. If not, it's going to drive him crazy. I don't want to do that. I'm sure that he's got enough on his mind going into the first week of the playoffs. So, Corey, can you help him with that? I'll tell you what. Let's throw up the Class B bracket real fast, and we'll kind of take a look at that before we bring him on here, and hopefully we can get that situation troubleshot here. Here it is. Again, this is another 5-week marathon and sprint. Cave Springs is going to Dewar for the first game. You got some tough teams here on the opposite side of the bracket as well. Laverne and Dewar team that are very familiar with each other meeting up in the playoffs. You got Shattuck and Garber there on the other side of the bracket. Oklahoma Bible Academy hosting Southwest Covenant in their first round. Excuse me, they're hosting Hollis, by the way, a team that Dewar met up with last year before the season ended. So hopefully Coach Bean's mix and minus will get figured out here pretty quickly. But Turpin, team in the far western part of the state this year that's had a good season, only one loss to Laverne last week in a game for the district championship. They're going to host Pond Creek Hunter. And so that's a team, again, Turpin and Sealing, potential second round matchup there.
All right, I'm good now.
Hey guys, are used to meeting each other in the playoffs. Okay, very good. That sounds much better. We can hear you loud and clear. I was saying, hey, thanks for having us out to the game. I had a blast. Get to watch you guys play and all the great hospitality and all the homemade pies and everything. That was a night I'll remember for a long time.
Yeah, it was great. It was great having you guys down here. I'm glad you liked the food and glad Miss Brewer was able to hook you up with some homemade pies. It was great. Great time.
No, that was right up my alley. Now, of all the guys that have been on this show tonight, we've had some guys that have been around for a while, but you got the longest tenure at the same school, 18 years, right? This is your 18th at Dewar?
This is actually my 19th year. So, yeah.
19th as the head coach. So I got your record wrong a little bit.
No, 18th as a head coach. I came back one year. My Jim Herring had came out of retirement, and I came back here after being the head coach at Midway and coached with him 1 year as his assistant. And then so 19 total, but 18 as a head coach. Yes, sir.
176 wins and 41 losses. And I think I remember on the PA, you guys got quite a home winning streak going on, right?
Yeah, I think we're somewhere around 55 or so. I'm not sure exactly what the number is. These guys, I know these guys haven't lost at home. The seniors this year haven't lost at home, and we haven't lost a regular season game. And I think it's been about 5 or 6 years. Yes.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with your squad this year. You got the ability to not only throw it, but you got the ability to run it. Not only with your quarterback, but a tailback that just runs with reckless abandon.
Man, Nevin's a great player. He has been for a couple of years now. I mean, I think he's somewhere around 1,800 yards and averaging about 15 yards a carry. And obviously, I mean, if he was able to play, a lot, full games more often, he could probably rack up some numbers that'd be unbelievable. I think he had 360 that night against Belma. But his average yards per carry is out of this world. And again, our quarterback's a young guy. He actually got hurt a week or two after that. He was out for about 3 or 4 weeks. Broke a toe. Actually, came back last week in the district title game against Caddo, and he had a great game. In fact, he ran for I think a 50-yard touchdown right off the bat. He had our first score of the night and kind of got us rolling again. It was good to have him back, and it kind of makes us all fit together. I mean, the kid that had him backed up for the 3 or 4 weeks was a senior who's played some quarterback, plays wide receiver, Christian Cargola. And, I mean, those guys are just – I mean, Christian's been excellent for us in all kinds of ways, and he kind of took up the slack when Peyton was out.
Yeah, Peyton Killoffer, his dad, Josh, on your staff as well as a freshman, has been really good. You guys have really some impressive size kids across the front where they can do a lot of different things. It's not necessarily guys that are all – super big, but it seems like there's a lot of versatility position-wise for you with the roster that you've got. Yeah,
I mean, our offensive line, I heard one of the guys saying it earlier. I mean, the guy from Heritage, we're extremely athletic up there. Our center's about 250, but he plays defensive end. And at one time he was our tight end, and we just moved him up down to center this year. In fact, I mean, he's more of he can go catch the ball probably as good as our tight end can right now. He's a really good athlete and does a lot of things for us on both sides of the ball. And both guards are, they're probably less than 250. Probably both those guys are 230-ish. And but just really athletic guys, and our tight ends really athletic. Those guys can really move around and pull and trap and swab and do all those things that we need them to do.
So I asked this to Brad Biller a little bit earlier. What's the key when you have a playoff season that is half as long as the regular season? So you really have to kind of manage your roster and your expectations in practice, and be careful not to turn it up too much on these guys.
For sure, that's something we've done this week. We've scaled it back a little bit, not so much in intensity and so forth. We've just scaled the time frame back and just said, hey, we're gonna go for an hour and a half, but we're gonna get out after it during this time. And the 5 weeks for Class B and of course Class A or 2A or whatever, I mean, you're limited with how much depth you got, and it can be a real. I mean, in 20 when we did it, it just seemed like, of course, we had an extra week that week. I think we actually played for the title like a week before Christmas, literally like about the 17th of December or something like that. This year it's scheduled for the 8th. And, but it's just a long time, and you have to we talk about it. We've talked about it with our kids, this is how we're going to approach it, and you got to be ready because it's going to be very intense mentally and physically for the next, of course, the weather's going to start changing. You're going to have those variables and stuff. So, it's just something you kind of got to prepare for both mentally and physically to kind of get them ready.
Are you guys are kind of on the cusp there of going back to 11-man, and you've had success at that level too in Dewar at the 11-man ranks as well.
We're close. I mean, that we made the next realignment, and so we're going to be in 8-man in Class B, the upper Class B, the next couple of years, and obviously, that's going to shorten the playoffs down a week for everybody, as it's already been talked about, which I think is a great thing for small school football. They did mention some things that I think has helped us. Our young kids get, that much more practice time. Again, these seniors have lost, I think, 2 games. I think they're 50-2 right now or something like that in their high school careers. So they've played a lot of football. They've been out there practicing for a lot of extra time when other people at our level are in the gym or already in the weight room, whatever the case may be. So playing the extra games is both ways. But in terms of being able to make it through without injuries and how much that affects small school football, I think going to the 4 weeks is going to be a great thing for everybody involved.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and it was a little initially, more classifications. A lot of people think that kind of is not good as in terms of competition, and it is a little bit of a burden on travel. All that I think is worth it. You can find any reason to complain, but I think that it does increase participation and it gives more schools a chance to compete. And so I love that. I think it's going to be a great change coming up. So. Sure. What you definitely have to take some long bus rides. Class B and Class C, man. You can go a long ways on that bus. What do you do to keep the time, to pass the time?
Well, this year was obviously both of our long road trips were at home. When we went to Cherokee and Velma both last year, both of them came to our place this year in the regular season. That was our some non-district opponents. And for us in Eastern Oklahoma, we really have to travel to play good people, and that's kind of been our thing. We 8-man football in Northwest Oklahoma has been around so long. Those guys really battle each other week in and week out, and we don't always have that here. So we really have to try to schedule up as much as we can and, play the best people that we can play. If that means traveling to the other side of the state, that's just kind of part of it. Obviously, the third round game being in a neutral site can help. And didn't play well last year in the third round, but having that game in a neutral site keeps us from having to travel 3 or 4 hours for sure, like we did a couple of years when we went to Shattuck and some of those places. So a lot better way to set up now than it was then.
Totally agree with that as well. If you have to play at Shattuck, you're going to leave on Thursday. If the game's Friday, that's a long way to go. You could probably watch a couple of seasons of Netflix on that.
Yeah, sure.
Josh, we wish the best of luck throughout the playoffs and on all the success you guys have had and the great numbers at Dewar.
All right. We appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for having us on.
You bet. Josh Bean, the head coach, the Dewar Dragons, undefeated this season and looking to win Class B state championship, first one since 2020, as he mentioned. All right. Our final guest of the night is the head coach of the Tifton Tigers, Travis White. Travis is in his 10th season there, won state championships in half of those seasons with a record of 126 overall. You just won your 100th game as a head coach, right? Last one.
Yeah, it was about 4 weeks ago. I was trying to slide that under the radar so nobody knew about it, but I got an assistant coach that was keeping track of it, and he had to let the town know. So, that was a cool deal. So,
I like your shirt. Nobody cares. Work harder. Is that a good mantra for the team?
You know, I picked it up last year. I got it. I think Lamar Jackson said it after a really good game, and I just feel like it applies to everything. You know, you beat somebody bad, nobody cares, work hard, or you lose a game because of bad officiating or whatever, nobody cares. You got to go to work and get better. So I think it's kind of resonated with the boys, and yeah, it's a good thing. So.
I think I needed that for my radio show on Monday. I think I just could have told a bunch of people that called, nobody cares, work harder.
It's a perfect Monday shirt. That's for sure.
How many kids do you have out this year?
We got 26, 25 kids out. Yeah. Numbers stay good. I mean, we're a small school. We got about 75 kids in high school. So, you know, probably 8 to 10 boys that don't play football. Like a lot of your Class C and Class B, good programs. We get all of our guys out, and that's a big part of our community and our town and our schools. So, yeah, we've been able to keep our numbers up. That's a big deal in Class C.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, and talk about the fact that the tradition, how much does it help that you guys have been so successful through all these years? I'm sure it's a little bit easier to go talk to the kids and say, hey, yeah, look, you want to come out for football this year? We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to win a lot of games.
You know, they just see it coming up. You know, they're 5th and 6th graders playing Little League or even elementary, and they see the tradition, the winning, and it's just not really a question of whether or not they're going to play, and they're going to play hard. And that comes with expectations to win. And our guys they kind of come up in the system, just like just about every coach you've had on here. It's a similar story. And so, yeah, that definitely helps keeping the numbers out and keeping the boys going hard. So.
I want to go back to the game earlier this year against Ryan. I mean, you beat them last year 62-0, and they have had a really good season and challenged you. Other than that, you guys have dominated almost every game so far this season. What does it mean to have one of those games under your belt? You don't have the schedule flexibility that Class B teams do, where you can go out and, like Coach Bean was talking about, we want to play some games before we get into the playoffs where we're going to be challenged. Do you feel good about your squad having to go to the end of the road to win that ball game?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that Ryan's probably about 50 points better than they were last year. They had a freshman kid move in that's a stud, and a couple other kids that came in. And last year they were just young. They were freshmen and sophomores. We had a senior-heavy team, and so we took care of them last year. This year, you know, we're 7 out of 8 new starters, basically. And so for us to go on the road into that environment, I mean, it was the biggest game Ryan's hosted in a long time. They had their whole town out. I mean, it was nuts. We played well. We had, we made some mistakes, and Ryan made a bunch of plays, but we made the plays in the end when we needed. I was super proud of our guys, the way they responded in that environment to face the adversity and to come out and make the plays. We got the ball back with 4 minutes left. We were tied up 32-32 and mounted a drive and then held them on defense and won the ball game. So.
I appreciate you guys. You sent a couple of your kids up for our photo shoot for Vipe earlier this season for the magazine, and I got to see Keon Wade, and I'm like, man, this guy is huge. He's listed at 6'5", 310, but I've seen some 6'5", 310 guys before, and seemed to me that he looked a little bit bigger. And then you got Johnny Fernandez, who made a bunch of plays all over the field in that game, and he's 5'4", 150. So that'd be a great picture for the program, I'm sure, with those two guys. But they're both pretty good players for you, right?
Pretty big difference whenever they get right next to each other. And Johnny runs behind Keon a lot, so you don't see him. It's tough to see him back there. But both those guys have been huge for us. Keon's just a force. On any level, he would play football. He's got good feet. He's got good flexibility. Big, strong, physical. Been a big part of it. Played some nose guard. Then we had an injury. We had to move him out and play some defensive end. He did a good job there. Johnny Fernandez, I think he had almost 200 yards rushing in that Ryan game, and I think about 20 tackles, had an interception, and he played well. Along with the rest of our seniors, we've had some other guys step up. Reichen Schallenberg's been a phenomenal tailback for us, scored a lot. Cameron Ramirez has really anchored our defense and made some plays on offense. So like Coach Bean and probably Bernard at Fairview, our guys are playing both ways. They have to do that in a small school. But I think it's great. I think it makes them understand the game better. They're playing both sides of the ball, and it gets them in better shape too. So,
you have any superstitions during the playoffs?
I've got a few superstitions. I got to eat a honey bun every Friday morning. That's kind of a tradition.
Just the old Hostess honey bun, or do you got somebody that makes you one homemade?
No, I got to go to the old Hop and Sack down here and get a honey bun.
Okay.
So that's a little tradition. I got to drink a cup of coffee right before the game with a brownie. So most of mine are food related, I would say. But Yeah, there's a little superstition. I've gotten better through the years, but yeah, there's a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if you miss the honey bun or the brownie, you still win in state championship every other year.
It's been all right. It's worked out okay. So
that's good. Hey, Travis, we appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you on down the road. Thanks for taking some time to join us tonight.
You bet. Thanks, sir.
All right, you appreciate it. That's Travis White, his head coach at Tipton. Again, in his 10th season, done a great job, averaging more than 10 wins a year and 5 state championships in those 10 seasons. So that'll do it. A little bit of a marathon tonight. An hour and 30 minutes worth of insight from coaches across the state. I believe that's 9 classes involved, and all of these teams will figure greatly into the mix for the state championship. And we'll be along the way to preview some of those games and have a great run here this week in the first round of the playoffs as we continue through the state championship games in the middle of December. I want to thank Corey Rogers for producing the show. Thanks Adam Dieselhorst for lining up the guests on the show, and all of the coaches that took time to visit with us tonight. Stay here on Squirtle.tv. Hopefully Sports Animal will join along too for some great coverage of high school football as we go through the